You are watching GRTs and this is News Hour. First, the headlines. Children looking forward to participating in the 2016 edition of National Children's Day of Broadcasting promised a wonderful experience following a financial boost of over $200,000 provided by First Lady Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh. Fine art graduates of Gambia College innovatively depict some of the numerous accomplishments of the glorious July 22nd revolution in a work of art that took years to complete. Gamtel urges people using its network of poles to hang cables to stop without hesitation or face the consequences. And the rights group Amnesty International accuses the Bangladeshi government of not doing much about the slow arsenic poisoning of much of the country's drinking water. Well, viewers, these and much more in the next 60 minutes. I am your presenter, TENNENG GITTEH. Welcome back. Children hoping to take part in the National Children's Day of Broadcasting have something to cheer about thanks to the valuable support provided by the First Lady, Madam Zainab Jammeh. In another timely intervention, the First Lady's Operation Save the Children Foundation have presented over $2,000 to the Gambia radio and television services ahead of the 2016 event. In another development, the foundation also handed over cars to two women who operate stalls at the Women's Federation Market. Both ceremonies, as we hear in this report, were presided over by the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, Dr. Aissatou Njie Saidi, on behalf of Madam Jammeh.
Her Excellency, the First Lady and Chairperson, Operation Save the Children Foundation, OSCF, gives $202,350 to the Gambia Radio and Television Services as it prepares to celebrate the maiden edition of the National Children's Day of Broadcasting, NCDB. The presentation, presided over by Her Excellency the Vice President, Dr. Aissatou Njie Saidi, on behalf of Her Excellency the First Lady, also saw two women, Mrs. Aji Ami Jallo, stall owner, and Mrs. Aissatou Ba, shop owner at the Women Federation Market in Sukuta, presented with cash amount of $50,000 and $70,000 respectively. The financial aid is meant to be used as investments and savings through its partner financial services, Reliance Financial Services. The National Children's Day of Broadcasting, NCDB, previously called International Children's Day of Broadcasting, ICDB, is a day when broadcasters around the world tune into kids' programs as they dominate the airwaves. They air quality program for and about children in order to encourage broadcasters worldwide to create awareness of children issues. The Director General of GRTS, Mamadou Sabali, expressed delight at the gesture. He thanked the First Lady for her intervention and, by extension, the First family for continuously supporting the national broadcaster.
I must say I am not surprised but impressed that Her Excellency the First Lady has come out again to support a very worthy and a very noble cause. As Her Excellency the Vice President said earlier, whatever we do as adults, we are doing it for our children, for the future of this country. And to that extent, we want to heartily thank Her Excellency the First Lady and indeed the First family.
We would like to express our profound gratitude to the First Lady of the Islamic State of the Gambia and Chairperson of the OSCF, Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh, for supporting us. The National Children's Day of Broadcasting allows children not only to be directly involved in radio and television programming, production and presentation, but gives voice to their hopes and dreams and share experiences with their peers, stakeholders and decision makers. The theme for this year is Empowering Children for Better Health. This, we believe, is important because we need to stay healthy as children to enable us build a brighter future.
First and foremost, in thanking again Her Excellency the First Lady, Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh, And of course, His Excellency the President, who gave all the enabling environment. And we would not have talked about a First Lady without a President. So we should thank His Excellency the President again, say Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya A.J. Jammeh, President of the Islamic Republic of the Gambia. Why are we thanking him? First and foremost, we are talking about an issue that he first created, GRTs. Nobody thought that we would have a television. In fact, everybody else had a television except for the Gambia. That was embarrassing. It's true. Nobody knew about it. We used to listen to neighboring radio stations and televisions. That was embarrassing. But he took us out of that. He said it's possible. In fact, people said it wasn't necessary. It was expensive to have it, that we can wait until later. But he ensured that it happened. Just like he ensured about the university and many other things. So we should thank him.
In another development, the Vice President handed over cash amounts to 2 women. This comes following a recent visit to the Women's Federation Market in Sukuta by Her Excellency the First Lady, in which she met 2 women, Mrs. Aja Amijalo, stall owner, and Mrs. Aisatuba, shop owner, both of whom have today benefited from Her Excellency's generosity in the form of cash donations and opening of savings account at the Reliance Financial Services for the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries extended gratitude to the First Lady for the gesture. They were moved to tears, highlighting the enormous benefits this will bring into their lives. Present at the occasion were Board of Directors of the OSCF, officials from the Office of Her Excellency the First Lady, the Women's Bureau, and Reliance Financial Services. Mohamed Njai, GRTS.
Fine art graduates of Gambia College have masterfully captured some of the major accomplishments of the glorious July 22nd revolution in a brilliant work of art. The creation, which took years to complete, was on Wednesday presented to the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs. Ibrahim Balde reports.
We have one thing in mind, a common desire to showcase their talents. These teachers who few years back cut their fine arts teeth under the tutelage of Mr. Momodu Rex Bojang are now looking forward to honing their skills wherever they find themselves. It was a journey that began years back, fraught with challenges and a desire to complete the task. Mr. Bojang was emotional in his speech as he went down memory lane to explain how it all started.
We are educationists. Let's also play our role, either one, to educate the people by sensitizing them, or beautify the environment. It's not only to beautify, but at least to document, the achievement of His Excellency. Today, most of us, we know him, but there are generations to come who may not even know who His Excellency is. Just recently, I was looking at the TV, and I happened to see a recent discovery related to water supply from Abuko to Banyul. I mean, it's a very great achievement. People got lost of that information, but today it exists. The same thing with this. Maybe there'll come a time, whether they are in the books or we keep them in the archives, but at least we need to really document these things.
The visual presentation was spiced up with a thought-provoking poetry rendition on the wild wind of change that swept the country on that fateful day of Friday, 22nd July, 1994.
It all commenced on a Friday morning.
It all commenced on a Friday morning.
The 22nd of July, 1994.
The 22nd of July, 1994.
Without causing much rotting to stopping.
Without causing much stopping
to rotting. Like the tsunami of recent times.
Like the tsunami of recent times.
Fear raged in the eyes of the old and young.
Fear raged in the eyes of the old and young.
But not a single barrel caused a rampage.
But not a single barrel caused a rampage.
When the dust finally settled down.
When the dust finally settled down.
A young, prolific and charismatic leader appeared.
A young, prolific and charismatic leader appeared.
Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Momodu Diouf, commended the group for presenting what he described as an exemplification of the July 22nd unprecedented developments. He said artists like musicians mirror happenings in society. If there is anyone who doubts whether we have homegrown talents, it is time for sober reflection as the socio-economic dynamics are changing for the better.
This is an example to evidence that yes, talent does exist in the Gambia. Because what this shows is it puts the onus on us to really try as an institution of government, be it the Ministry of Tourism and Culture or the National Center for Arts and Culture, to see how we can work with these people of these various diverse talent to try and harness that talent to ensure that the requisite rewards are reaped vis-a-vis the talent that Gambians have been exhibiting and displaying over the years.
The positive development and artistic pursuit are all taking place under the conducive political, economic and security climate, encouraging some of the country's best brains to shine.
He provided the enabling environment for everybody to unleash their talents. But we want to thank you for documenting His Excellency the President's achievements. And I might say, His Excellency always says it's not only his achievement, it's Gambians' achievements. Because he believes that if you are a leader, you must have support from behind, no matter how good you are as a leader, no matter how good your pronouncements are, your policies and programs and development blueprints. If the public doesn't support you, you can't go ahead. So therefore, His Excellency the President is appreciative of all Gambians, including our artists, of course, including Mr. Bojang and team, for also trying to tell the Gambian story. As we always say, if we don't tell our story, nobody else would. And thank God there are Gambians who are willing to tell their story.
These students have once more made the country's leadership proud by coming up with a creative venture, such as itemizing through fine arts some of the major accomplishments of the July 22nd revolution. Ibrahim Abalde, GRTS News.
In what could be described as marathon deliberations, the National Assembly on Wednesday ratified the bill on the bills payment system, the agreement on the setting up of the Agency for the Management of the Common Structures of OMVG, Sambangalo Hydroelectric Facilities and Power Transmission Network, and the agreement on the establishment of the African Risk Capacity Agency. Rohibite was following proceedings and she now tells us more.
It can be recalled that on Tuesday, the Minister of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, Balagaba Jahumpa, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, tabled a bill on payment system to the members of the National Assembly, paving the way for Wednesday's deliberation at the National Assembly.
The Central Bank Act of 2005 indeed does not address the issue of payment systems in terms of finality, etc. Hence, by passing this bill, Honorable Speaker, we will be compliant as a nation.
The bill was seconded by Honorable Habibulai Jao, member for Jimara, for ratification. Members among them, Honorable Fabakari Tombong Jata, Majority Leader, and member for Sarakunda East, cited the significance of the bill, which is said to be of public interest and in compliance with the international bank system.
Honorable Speaker, the bill is to facilitate payments and enhance confidence in the systems under the planned monetary union nationally across the board.
Ensuring up-to-date, effective and efficient payment systems is a sine qua non for the effective management of economic transactions in this country.
The Bill of Payment System was then unanimously adopted by members of the National Assembly. The next tabled by the Honorable Minister of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, representing the Minister for Environment, Climate Change, Water, Wildlife and Fisheries, for ratification by the members of the National Assembly, was the agreement on the setting up of the Agency for the Management of the Common Structures of OMVG, Sambangalo Hydroelectrical Facilities and Power Transmission Network. The agreement, which was moved by Honorable Balagaba Jahumpa, is reported to be necessitated by the OMVG, in which the Gambia, along with the Republic of Guinea, Guinea-Bissau and Senegal are members, and is aimed at providing reliable and cost-effective electricity supply, as well as facilitating tidal irrigation for agricultural purposes.
The agency, when established, will be in charge of managing the common structures of the Sambangalo and the power transmission network under OMVG supervision.
That was seconded by Honorable Mam Cherno Jallo, member for Opanyomi, paving the way for members who all highlighted on the series of possible benefits the country can gain from this agreement when actualized.
A project which is likely to bring about serious modifications on the characteristics of the river's regime, on its navigation conditions, the agricultural and industrial exploitation of the river, if the
project, even if it's realized, and then the prices continues to be really high, then it's not serving the objective why the project was initially designed.
We sign agreements, but to implement the agreement is always a problem.
If this thing is fully implemented, I think the problem of energy will be a thing of the past.
Members, among them Majority Leader Fabakary Tombong Jatta, Habibullah Jawo, member for Jimara, and nominated member Honorable Lamin Sen, all spoke of the positive impact the ratification of the agreement will have on the country. That led to the ratification of the agreement on the setting up of the Agency for the Management of the Common Structures of OMVG, Sanbangalo hydroelectrical facilities, and power transmission network by members of the National Assembly. The last to be tabled before deputies on Wednesday by the Honorable Minister of Transport, Works and Infrastructure on behalf of the Minister for Environment, Climate Change, Water, Wildlife and Fisheries was the ratification of the agreement on the establishment of the African Risk Capacity ARC Agency.
Honorable Speaker, sir, the potential benefits to be derived from the ratification of this treaty far outweigh the obligations.
That was also seconded by Honorable Bafai Sedikan, member for Jara West, opening a debate by members for what they describe as non-controversial and up for ratification.
And if you interfere into nature, definitely you should expect some reactions from nature too that usually causes disaster.
We provide and improve foreign risk management instruments that will allow the African Union member states to pool resources to provide rapid and efficient emergency funding.
It's a very good agreement that will not go accessing fund through a lot of bureaucracy steps before accessing that fund or manage that risk.
At the point in time, it is high time that we think globally and act locally. We want to address the issues related to environment.
Other members of the National Assembly also deliberated on the agreement on establishment of the African Risk Capacity ARC Agency before its ratification by the House under the chair of the Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Abdoulaye Bojang. Sitting was then adjourned until Thursday, 7th April 2016. Rahibite, GRTS.
Gambian women, especially those in urban centers, have long been involved in the microfinance activity called Ususu. It has tremendous benefits for individual members in addition to its role in fostering social cohesion and understanding. GITTEH's Farmer Fovona visited one Ususu group in New Joshua and also spoke to a UTG graduate assistant looking into the impact of microcredit on the life of rural women, and this is his report.
Every Wednesday, these women would gather here in Sisakunda in New Joshua, Kanifi municipality, for an informal economic activity they have been doing for more than 2 decades now. Osusu, as it is locally called, is a small-scale revolving loan scheme operated by women, mostly in urban Gambia on periodic basis, every week in most cases. What initially started with $25 each some 20 years ago, according to Ajakutu Jawara, today yields $22,600 every week. And out of necessity, that amount is shared between 2 lucky women, with either winner going home with $11,300 every other Wednesday, in addition to basic household needs like soup. Osusu says one of these group's founding members, Muzukeba Suare, helps women like her immensely in attending to the educational and healthcare needs of their children. The social and economic benefits of this informal microcredit scheme, as explained by Ajamakutu Jadama, are too many to enumerate. Whether it is a bed that needs to be purchased, a bag of rice that needs to be bought as a way of complimenting one's husband, or extending a hand of support to our daughters in their matrimonial homes, the Osusu comes very handy for us. And in instances when one of us is desperately in need of money, we do not wait for the raffle draw. The person in dire need of a bailout is given money straight away to solve her financial shortcomings. Mohamed Samara has been serving as secretary for these women for the past few years. Having watched this group from close quarters for a while now, the young man is well placed to weigh in on Osusu from a social point of view.
Their main objective is to interconnect people, different tribes and anti-groups. So, and I think that it's very beneficial if you look at social development. So they try to bring different anti-groups, and at the end of the day, they build a strong relationship which helps to make easy communication and access between people.
Our feature on the Osusu took us to the School of Business and Public Administration, University of the Gambia, where we caught up with graduate assistant Lamin Damfa.
The impact this Osusu of women is definitely far-reaching, you understand. And there we can look at into three perspectives. One, we can look at if women are organized as a group or couple, it is important for them to, get assistance, from donor agencies, NGOs, and government. And we have seen in this country that women come together under a unified umbrella, wherein they got a support in terms of, in agriculture, and other, branches of agriculture in that way. And also, they also got support in terms of these small enterprise businesses as well. So this has, in a nutshell, almost, catapult women into a different level. So we have also seen the role they play, in their household, for example, in terms of food security, in terms of other support, paying the health, taking care of the health of the family, the household, their education, and so on. Now, if you also go to the material benefit of this Osusu, you also realize that women, especially in the run-up to, Ramadan, for example, some of these women will actually get some materials where each member of that Osusu group would get something, in the form of utensils, in the form of some of those other condiments that are needed during that period.
Damfa, a specialist in accountancy, is currently working on a project examining the role of microfinance in alleviating poverty in rural Gambia.
The World Bank, has said in the past that about 40% of the world is living in poverty, you understand? And most of the time, those people that are in that cycle are the women. They are seriously being marginalized, you understand? And therefore, their role in this Osusu has definitely propelled, the economic, the entire economic setup in the country. That is why it is important to note here is that the role of women in this Osusu need to be streamlined in the entire economic development of any country, because they play a very, very effective role in economic development of any country. Bear in mind that, the role they play in, try to help the household in terms of food security and, in terms of other, benefit as well. So you will realize that definitely women in general, especially with this Osusu, it has tremendously changed their life. And they play a very, very important role in the entire economic setup, especially in the rural setup.
If you look at their association, they help a lot, because in terms of education, they contribute a lot. They are taking their kids to school, and some of their kids are holding a big push in the Gambia, and because of this association. So at the end of the day, when they come together, they gather, they make a contribution. At the end of the day, they make a balloting, and they give it to one of the guys who happens to win for the day. And then, even when we talk about this thing, how to call it, in a society also, we look at this aspect also. They use the money also to buy a bag of rice and a lot of things, which is helping the houses. So you can see that at the end of the day, if the husband didn't have anything, then the wife can pull out money and buy a bag of rice or pull out fish money, which is also helping a lot. And I'm also praying for the association to continue with this thing, and because it is helping a lot. Because if you look at it, my mom also make a big contribution to my education. Because if you look at it, when I was going to Gambia Senior Secondary School, she used to pull out money to pay my school fees before my brother took over. And then from there, my brother took over, and now I'm in University of the Gambia. I'm a physics major, but thank God, Potts is making the payment tuition fee for me. And now there is no pressure on my mom.
Thanks to this weekly microfinance activity, Jatu Dumbia, the youngest member of this new Joswan Osusu group, is now running her own business, buying essential goods like bed sheets and distributing them to others on credit basis. For these women, the Osusu is a gainful microfinance undertaking that engenders social cohesion in their ranks. Famara Fofana, GRTS.
You're reminded that you're watching the GRTS News Hour, and once again, our headlines. Children looking forward to participating in the 2016 edition of National Children's Day of Broadcasting promised a wonderful experience following a financial boost of over $200,000 provided by First Lady Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh. Fine art graduates of Gambia College innovatively depict some of the numerous accomplishments of the glorious July 22nd revolution in a work of art that took years to complete. GAMTEL urges people using its network of poles to hang cables to stop without hesitation or face the consequences. And the rights group Amnesty International accuses the Bangladeshi government of not doing much about the slow arsenic poisoning of much of the country's drinking water. News Hour continues right after this break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. People using GAMTEL's network of poles to hang cables have been warned to desist from the practice or face the full force of the law. The stern warning comes after several appeals which seem to have had little or no impact. For more on GAMTEL's resolve, we go with this report by Winifred Nicole.
Is ready to take legal action against individuals or group using the company's telecommunications network infrastructure, known as street poles, to hang their television and satellite cables. This after the telecommunication giant gathered reliable information that the practice is widespread across the country.
GAMTEL for a long time has embarked on investing in the network infrastructure, which for so many years ago has created a convenient platform for every other player today in the telecommunications sector. This infrastructure includes and not limited to fiber cables, copper cables, towers, and most importantly and more frequently, the telephone poles. These poles have been put in place to be able to deliver last mile services to our customers. And they were dedicatedly put in those places just to deliver telephone services.
The practice, as the GAMTEL management puts it, contradicts the laws of the land. But how soon should this practice stop?
My message goes not only to the people who are doing or delivering those services, but also to those who we may regard as subscribing to the services that they are delivering. GAMTEL has just ended the process of rolling out a network infrastructure countrywide, and our next activity is to rehabilitate entirely the copper network. And this copper network has two components, both the underground and the overhead. The overhead network is rolled out using the poles. And these poles have not been placed in those positions to accommodate any other service other than the GAMTEL's telecoms services.
Communication is key to any meaningful development, meaning it is therefore the responsibility of all to protect materials that is communication. GAMTEL has provided these toll-free numbers to the general public to call whenever they suspect people tampering with street poles: 145, 131, and 136. The matter could also be reported to the police station. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Winifred Nicole.
subsector. They gathered at Carnegie Municipal Council for a town hall meeting. The interface, presided over by the Minister of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, was called to address challenges officials in charge of road transport, commercial vehicle drivers and owners are grappling with. Ibrahim Jallo picks up the rest of that story.
The meeting provided the opportunity for the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment to shed light on the legal administration of the country's transport sector. The move comes a couple of weeks after the dissolution of the National Transport Control Association by government. The Mayor of Carnegie Municipality, Yankuba Koli, described the meeting as significant and historic, noting it enables fruitful discussion between government and stakeholders in the road transport subsector, aimed at ensuring a win-win situation. The Minister of Trade, Industry, Regional Integration and Employment, Abdou Diop, wasted no time in clarifying the purpose of the convergence. The message is clear. The ministry is now responsible for the regulation, control and policies governing the transport sector. He, however, enjoined drivers to forget the past and open a new page for a brighter future of the country's transport system. The Minister of the Interior, Usman Sonko, commended the Trade Ministry for creating the platform for frank discussions between stakeholders in the transport sector and state authorities. Sonko used the opportunity to express his growing concern about frequent fatal accidents in the country, which he blamed on indiscipline and non-compliance of traffic rules. He went on urging drivers to remain vigilant to criminals and report any suspicious activity to state authorities for the purpose of national security. Representatives of drivers from the country's 7 administrative regions, among them Mamadou Mane of West Coast Region and Modou Cham of North Bank Region, agreed with the government decision to assume control of regulation of the commercial transport subsector, but were equally quick to urge government to shed light on the next step it intends to take in relation to administrations of the road transport subsector. Apart from the 2 ministers who have a direct stake in road transport issues, another who could an indirect role to play in the matter was also present, alongside several heads of government departments, signaling the premium placed on the road transport sector. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
The United Nations headquarters in New York is home to the iconic UN building, which is described as one of the symbols of a return to a semblance of world peace after the 2 world wars in the early and mid-20th century. The famous building attracts scores of visitors who are either on assignment or just visiting to marvel at the architectural wonder. In recent times, another structure has been added to that list. And as Babuka Singh reports, the Arc of Return explains the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade, but with special focus on one historic village in the Gambia's North Bank region.
The United Nations headquarters in New York is home to arguably one of the most iconic symbols and structures in the world. The UN building has since 1945 made its mark in the skylines of Lower Manhattan. This part of the Big Apple is littered with skyscrapers and towers, but beneath the congested, lively streets of this megacity lies another structure, less visible, but no less important. Few people now make the trip to the United Nations headquarters without paying a special visit, and in most cases, pay homage to the memorial building, honoring the lives of the millions of slaves that lost their lives in the transatlantic slave trade. During her trip to New York for the recently concluded CSW 60, the Vice President took time from her busy schedule to have a closer view of the memorial structure, the symbolic Arc of Return. For many who make this short journey to see this memorial, it is the difficult feeling of confronting tales of the horrors of one of the darkest periods of mankind. For this delegation, this story hits harder, and one that comes closer to home. For it is clear that the very essence of this monument has at the heart of it all a Gambian narrative.
This monument symbolizes our hope for the diaspora to return back to Africa and contribute their quota to the development of the continent. And we all know that the diaspora is considered as the 5th region of Africa, and it's in line with that for this year, this decade has been chosen as the decade of people of African descent. And as the president will always say, the diaspora, they are Africans, in fact, and well, it's even more symbolic for us because starting from this year, the Gambia under the leadership of His Excellency, the President of the Republic, President Jammeh, a stable resolution on slavery as a crime against humanity, and asking for reparation and the restitution of our stolen goods. And we were blessed with the support of the African Union. Now it's not only a Gambian affair, it's led by the African Union. It's part of the decision taken during the last AU summit in Addis Ababa. And now the African group in New York is going to take the decision and work with our colleagues from CARICOM, from like-minded countries, to put the resolution on the table.
The memorial building, which now sits comfortably at the United Nations, is the work of Rodney Leon, renowned U.S. architect of Haitian descent. It explains in detail the painful three-way journey that was the Atlantic slave trade, from the mouth of the River Gambia, from villages like Albreda, the vast plantations in the West Indies, and back to Europe. Leon, a descendant of slaves, used his creative talent, spurred on by the stories that marked the lives of his forebears, to address the issue of slavery and slave trade.
This is very important for all of us, and it's a reminder to those who have committed crimes, those who are usually pointing fingers at us, to know that they've committed worse crimes. Yeah, that's not a justification for people to commit crimes. Their crimes are crimes. But I think even for the Africans, because sometimes I have the impression with the little experience I have here, that sometimes it's just like we are shy or ashamed to table such a, to have such a debate. We are the victims, so I don't see any reason why you should be ashamed of it.
The unveiling of the structure on the 25th of March 2015 was attended by Ban Ki-moon, UN Secretary General, and was joined by Jamaica's Prime Minister, Portia Simpson Miller, and the designer Rodney Leon, who later eloquently told the gathering that the monument is here to educate us all, while adding, "It is our solemn responsibility to educate the future generations and to take responsibilities seriously," he said. Few will argue with that narrative, as shown on a daily basis here at the United Nations headquarters, as hordes of people take time to pay homage to the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. GRTS News is Babakar Senghor.
It's the eve of World Health Day, and as usual, leading health officials are using the opportunity to shed light on a number of health challenges like diabetes, which is occurring in younger age groups. The WHO representative in the Gambia, Dr. Charles Sego Moses, focused part of his message on the increasing number of people who are diagnosed with diabetes. Here's an excerpt.
Globally, the number of people living with diabetes has risen sharply from 108 million in 1980 to 422 million in 2014. In the African region, this has risen from 4 million to 25 million during the same period. The sharp rise is a result of rapid, uncontrolled urbanization, globalization, and major changes in lifestyle, with a resultant increase in the prevalence of the lifestyle risk factors. Diabetes imposes a substantial public health and economic burden in the face of scarce resources. The disease can be prevented by maintaining normal body weight, engaging in regular physical activity, eating healthy diets that include sufficient consumption of fruits and vegetables, and avoiding alcohol consumption and the use of tobacco. Early diagnosis and treatment is critical to prevent the development of complications from diabetes. Urgent and concrete actions are needed to tackle the rising problem of diabetes in this region. Therefore, as we celebrate World Health Day, I urge all government to implement the globally agreed actions to prevent and control diabetes.
The WHO representative talking there about diabetes. And this is the news hour, and a quick check on our headlines once more. Children looking forward to participating in the 2016 edition of National Children's Day of Broadcasting promise a wonderful experience following a financial boost of over $200,000 provided by First Lady Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh. Fine art graduates of Gambia College innovatively depict some of the numerous accomplishments of the glorious July 22nd revolution in a work of art that took years to complete. Gamtel urges people using its network of poles to hang cables to stop without hesitation or face the consequences. And the rights group Amnesty International accuses the Bangladeshi government of not doing much about the slow arsenic poisoning of much of the country's drinking water. News Hours continues right after this break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The National Center for Arts and Culture is trying to get budding Gambian artists to appreciate the country's rich treasure trove of traditional music and fuse them with their contemporary compositions. The ambitious effort recently took off with a 3-day workshop that dealt with traditional Gambian. Janke Toure reports the program attracted some of the Gambia's most popular musicians.
The training is the first of its kind, organized solely for young Gambian musicians. The plan is to use the rich traditional musical resources housed at the National Center for Arts and Culture's Oral Archives, located in Fajara, alongside the skills and expertise gathered by successful Gambian musicians to impart knowledge on young musicians and encourage them to integrate traditional Gambian music in their compositions.
The main objective of the project was to digitize the collection and facilitate its backup in diverse places as a risk management measure. The project also aimed to facilitate the improvement of the archival collection, archival conditions of the collection, at least conservation-wise, as well as facilitate easier access and use of the collection through better cataloging and shelving.
The training is funded by the Swedish government. Kajsa Dahlström, an artist from Sweden, said the peace, tranquility and the enabling environment created for the artists by the Gambia government encouraged her to work with local artists.
When I was coming here, I was telling some people before I was coming here that now I am going to Gambia and I'm going to the music archive. And musician I met told me, oh, in Sweden, actually most of our Gambian, most of our best musicians in Sweden nowadays have some connection to Gambia. So today it's actually many people who have some connection to Gambia, and I think it can be because Gambia actually have a very, very strong and rich tradition.
Culture is very important, especially in the music sector, said Professor Uhutu, who advised the participants to take the training seriously and make best use of the opportunity.
I looked through the archives, and I was very pleased to learn that over 5,000 items had been digitalized. Now, if you know the fears today about young people not being interested in their culture, rather they are interested in foreign cultures, then you would see the great importance that this project holds for the future of our culture. To participants, this is a very serious set of activities you're going to be involved in. And I do hope that you will take it very seriously.
The Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Culture, Mamadou Sijouf, said good music cannot be made without digging deep into the foundation and of one's culture, adding music can contribute to the national economy as much as tourism does.
This is not to say that we are asking young people to play just traditional music. But what is important is that music is such a vast landscape that every musician of every nation must try to find his or her niche in that vast musical landscape.
The training targets 13 active and popular young Gambian musicians, including women. Their selection is based on their output and popularity. Organizers are seeking to reconnect them with their cultural identity and get them to better appreciate and understand traditional music. Reporting for GRTS News, I am Janke Toure.
Coffee has been around for centuries, but one particular type made popular by hundreds of thousands of Senegalese nationals residing in the Gambia is guaranteeing coffee enthusiasts their daily fix and giving a good number of retailers of the hot beverage called Café Touba a means to eke out a living. GITH's Uminjai has been out and about to learn more about the increasingly popular hot beverage, and this is her report.
Café Touba, as it is commonly called, is becoming increasingly popular in the Gambia and is sold in almost every corner. The local coffee is now consumed by a significant chunk of the population. Out of professional inquisitiveness, I embarked on a quest to find out how Café Touba is made and whether it is great for health. My quest to know more about the increasingly popular beverage took me to various places. The first person I encountered was Matar Njai, a Café Touba seller who frequents the busy Westfield garage. Soon after, Njai told me the traditional cafe goes back to the 19th century and was introduced and made popular by the spiritual leader of the Murids, Ahmadu Bamba. Njai told me that it was upon Sheikh Ahmadu Bamba's return from a mission from the sea that he brought along a huge amount of coffee as gift to his people, adding, because of the blessing the cafe has, it is getting increasingly popular. When I asked about its preparation process, Falou Fall, who is also a Café Touba seller, and Aliou Silla, told me that the typical Senegalese coffee is prepared with a strong blend of Arabic coffee. The coffee beans are infused with cloves and a particular kind of black pepper, locally called jar in Wolof. The beverage is sugared and served hot for few dollars. In continuation of my journey to know more about Café Touba, I met with one Fatou Choi at the Almat Market in Banjul, who is one of the few women in the Café Touba business. Fatou, a Senegambian who dwells in the capital city for over 15 years, is said to be a very hardworking and determined woman. Fatou, a mother of teenagers, told me that since she came to the Gambia, she has been engaged in the cafe business while selling other food items to meet her family's needs.
Alhamdulillah, maa ngi faj samay soxla yu ndaw ndawaan sama lekk sama naan yëpp itam ci laa ko aj sama fay lu yaasa korang ndox yëpp laa ko aj.
She said she depends on Café Touba a lot, adding, through her earnings from the Café Touba business, she pays rent, school fees for her children, and offsets other bills. Papa Cham, a regular at Fatou Choi's Cafe, said Café Touba is very good for the system and that it can heal sicknesses. Cham said he consumes the cafe twice daily, adding it gives him energy to handle the daily grind.
Café gi lépp njariñ la ndaxte jàngoro yu bari dina ko génn ci yow te itam sa wérgu yaram dina la ko defal rax ci doole ñun dañoo judd fekk suñu maamaati maam di naan Café Touba ñun ñu judd ci loolu xamuñu lu dul Café Touba.
The claims made by Cham in relation to Café Touba's health benefits led me to Ibrahima Sen, who told me Café Touba is a healing beverage. The Guinean pepper, locally called jar in Wolof, with which the coffee is combined, is a great remedy for stomach and liver problems, asthma, and a host of others, he stressed. There was no shortage of enthusiastic coffee tuber drinkers who are willing to talk about its health benefits. But a healthcare worker is certainly the best person to satisfy my professional curiosity in relation to coffee tubers' health benefits. Ominjai, GRTS.
I would love a cup right now, but with that, we'll take a break. When we return, we take a look at news from beyond our borders. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton led their parties' respective races for the U.S. presidential nomination, but Wisconsin didn't go their way. In the sole primary contest of both sides this week, Republican Ted Cruz and Democrat Bernie Sanders saw momentum in that direction. For more on that, we take a look at this report by DWTV.
It was the moment Ted Cruz had been waiting for. His resounding win in Wisconsin has breathed new life into his campaign and dealt a blow to Republican frontrunner Donald Trump. Donald Trump still leads the Republican race with a clear lead over Cruz. But the boost in Cruz's campaign makes it less likely the billionaire businessman will be able to secure the 1,237 delegates needed to win the nomination outright. With only 143, John Kasich's campaign is as good as over. Cruz campaigners are now hoping for a contested convention, where party delegates, not voters, choose the nominee.
Either before Cleveland or at the convention in Cleveland, together we will win a majority of the delegates, and together we will beat Hillary Clinton in November.
But a win for Clinton is far from in the bag. Although she remains in the lead, Bernie Sanders is gaining ground, taking home nearly all counties in Wisconsin.
Momentum is starting the campaign 60 to 70 points behind Secretary Clinton. Momentum is that within the last couple of weeks, there have been national polls which have had us 1 point up or 1 point down.
Clinton still has a 250-point lead over her opponent, but the gap is closing. And the gap is closing in on Trump too, where the Republicans seem to be heading towards a contested convention.
Human Rights Watch says millions of people in Bangladesh are slowly being poisoned. In a new report, the rights group accuses the government of failing to find a solution to the arsenic contamination poisoning much of the country's drinking water. CNN's Sunima Udais has more.
30-year-old Johara Akhtar draws water from her family's well. The clear water contains a deadly element, arsenic, but she doesn't have another option. Her mother's died from drinking it. Her brother and father are both ill. The problem is widespread and well known. The fix, simple but costly, according to Richard Piercehouse of Human Rights Watch.
Water from 150 meters down is usually safe. It's usually arsenic-free. Water from just 30 or 50 meters down, that's the water that is usually contaminated with arsenic. The problem in Bangladesh is shallow tube wells, the wells that go just 50 meters down. To get 150 meters down, that costs approximately $1,000.
Odorless, tasteless, and poisonous arsenic naturally occurs in soil and rock in Bangladesh. Deeper wells bypass this toxin, but Human Rights Watch says tens of millions of people living in rural and poor areas of the country need the government to provide these deeper, more expensive wells. The group visited 5 villages and talked to over 100 people and found a big problem.
A deep tube well from the government could be providing life-saving, safe water for hundreds of people. But what I saw when I went to the villages was a different situation. There would be a few government tube wells in those areas, but they would be in private people's houses. They'd be in someone's backyard, locked up behind a shed, and they'd be used by that person's immediate family, so 5 or 6 people. There are thousands of people in that one village who are still drinking contaminated water from their wells. They know the arsenic is contaminated, but they have no alternative because the government water points are used by private families who have got them through political connections.
And even when the government tries to install deep water wells in villages, Pierce House says it's not getting it right.
Bangladesh has mapped to an incredibly precise degree where the arsenic is in its groundwaters. There are extensive maps at an incredibly detailed level across this country. But when deciding where to put new tube wells, which could keep people safe, they don't actually follow that.
Human Rights Watch hopes that by again drawing attention to the issue, the government of Bangladesh will take its recommendation to adopt a national plan to end arsenic exposure and provide millions with access to safe water.
This problem came to the world's attention 20 years ago. And it got on the front page of the New York Times and was widely covered. The problem of arsenic in the drinking water is still as deadly as it was the first time the world learnt about this problem.
Now, we reached out to the Bangladesh government for a comment on this Human Rights Watch report. The Director General of Health Services, Dean Mohammed, said he was not aware of this report, but he did say, and I quote, "Arsenic in water in rural Bangladesh is a problem, no doubt, but it's not very serious. The government has been setting up healthcare facilities and community-led programs to educate people about arsenic in water for years. We are trying to stop villages from using tube well water and asking them to use boiled surface water instead." Samima Udas, CNN, New Delhi. New Delhi. New Delhi.
And now to sports. The tie is not won yet, and we are ready to wipe the tears of our long-suffering fans. These were the words of goal scorer and one of the newest members of the new look Gambia Under-20, who won comfortably away to Sierra Leone in Makene. Pa Omar Babu was speaking to reporters shortly after the team jetted into Banjul from Sierra Leone via Morocco. Babu Kasengo reports.
Even the long journey, a tiring round trip from Makeni by road to Freetown, and then a long flight to Banjul via Casablanca in North Africa, did little to dissipate the joy of a comfortable 2-0 triumph over Sierra Leone. The players, led by officials of the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the Gambia Football Federation, flew in the small hours of Wednesday morning on board Royal Air Maroc. The victory in Makeni is a significant marker for the team, one that was not lost on assistant captain Pa Umar Babu.
Yeah, we are very happy. We worked very hard for this victory. So we are very happy and proud of ourselves because we are all Gambians. We need this victory very much. Because it's been a while we haven't tasted victory in football in the Gambia. So we are very happy and proud of ourselves.
It was not an easy match. But the day of the match, it was really hot, 35 degrees Celsius at Makeni. And, you know, we managed to look at how we go about the first half. And then by the beginning of the second half, it was a bit cool down. And that is where the boys took off and managed to score 2 goals.
Another member of the Under-20 team and goal scorer Bonsane was equally in good spirit ahead of the return leg in Banjul.
It was super. Well, okay, we enjoy it, feel free, no pressure, no stress.
It's joy. We are full of joy. I'm very proud of the boys as well. Proud to be a Gambian and do something that will make Gambians happy.
A huge win in Makeni came on the back of successive poor results as the senior team failed to win in 2 games against Mauritania. Senior team officials are now pinning their hopes on this crop of players in the fabled rebranding and restructuring strategy being employed by the GFF.
I think the objective for this team is beyond the Under-20 AFCON. We're looking them to be the seed the nucleus of the future of pride of the nation. We have the senior national team. We have young players within them, both home-based and professionals. But in our rebuilding and the branding drive, we have to look further down. And closest to that is the under-20.
With Morocco in sight, players and team officials are confident of doing the double over Sierra Leone, yet no one is looking further than the big game at home to the young Leon Stars, as the youth team enters what looks like an exciting period in their development.
From sports, we take a look at the weather report courtesy of Central Forecast Office. Full day ahead, and with that we come to the end of this newscast. But before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of our day's main stories. Children looking forward to participating in the 2016 edition of National Children's Day of Broadcasting are promised a wonderful experience following a financial boost of over $200,000 provided by First Lady Madam Zainab Yahya Jammeh. Fine art graduates of Gambia College have innovatively depicted some of the numerous accomplishments of the glorious July 22nd revolution in a work of art that took years to complete. Gamtel is urging people using its network of poles to hang cables to stop without hesitation or face the consequences. And the rights group Amnesty International has accused the Bangladeshi government of not doing much about the slow arsenic poisoning of much of the country's drinking water. Well, viewers, that was all for this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Do stay with us, and I'm your presenter, TENNENG. Have a pleasant night.